Hi everyone, Rhonda Gilbert here, and if you want to look for me on Facebook, I'm Rhonda Devlin-Gilbert of Goddess Garage here, and I'm here to do a video on junk journaling, and I'm focusing on the signatures. So if you can see here, I batch up my signatures, and I spent the last couple of days organizing my big papers, as I call them. So like these big sheets that you get in the pads sometimes. So what I like to do is I like to batch up and bulk make signatures, because the fun part for me, I love doing the signatures too, don't get me wrong, but I'm going to go through what you need and how you can batch up your own signatures so that when you go to do junk journaling, you can just grab a bunch of signatures. Some of them I have categories for. So there's a big batch that I've been working on, and it goes really fast. I'm just going to put this down on the floor. Whoa, that's heavy. So it's fun to do them in batches like that. You'll find a lot of junk journalers tend to do things in batches, like they do tags or they do signatures or they, that sort of thing. It's partly, I think, as fun as it is to do things in batches, it's partly to get to the fun part, which is once your journal's together, you can embellish it and, sort of decorate it up kind of thing. So the categories I have, this is a jewelry order. I did have the categories around here somewhere. Of course, like I said earlier in another video, we always lose things and then we find them again. So this is just an order. I had categories written down. So what I was doing the last couple of days is taking a lot of these kind of big sheets, and I don't know if you're like me, but you'll buy a book or a pad and you'll go through it and be, oh, this is really good for this, that's really good for that. And I found what I was doing a lot of was going through pads and pads all the time, every time I wanted to set up a journal. So I thought I'd do a bulk thing, but I needed to sort out my pads first, right? So I have different categories. So you use whatever categories work for you. So one thing I do like is this is the pile called Modern Girls and Coffee Dates. So it's very like, I'm using no kind of vintage stuff necessarily. It's all about the coffee dates. It's all about the coziness, maybe a little cottage care in there, that sort of thing. And then the next category I tend to have, I'm pointing this way because this is the pile that had it. So let me just see here. Oh, this is the artist pile, for instance. So artsy fartsy, as I call it, hippy dippy is another term I use for it. I've used a lot of my art things already. I mean, I've got a pile here, but I was having so much fun. I got this packet with this stuff, so I've used that for my art signatures. So I've used almost that whole pad, and we're going to go through what goes in a signature and how to make them really fast and quick. Not that, not that I'm like impatient. Maybe I am, to get everything done, but I like organized things. So this is artsy fartsy, hippy dippy. This is Modern Girl and Coffee Dates. Then I also have sort of detective, steampunk, darker, more on the masculine side of things, all your gentlemen with the top hats and things like that. And then I also have what I call my romantic Paris vintage Victorian kind of stuff. So this is one of the piles for that. This is one of my biggest because this is the one I use the most and the theme that I use the most. So that you've got your letters, your old letters, and you've got your old sewing patterns, that sort of thing. Music, I use that a lot in that sort of category. So like I said, we're going to go through one. Now this pile over here, once I move some of the artsy fartsy stuff. And then I have somewhere around here fairy, fauna, and flora, and also fairy tales and magical things, that sort of, it can be more of the lighter side of witchcraft, whereas my masculine, dark, vampire kind of side is more darker witch kind of thing, your the ones dancing out in the moonlight kind of thing, right? So this is my pile here of just paper. So paper that you would put into, say, one of your signatures. So let's make a signature. So I've got this piece here, which is very nice. A lot of modern girl ones will be pink. And I really like this, but I think I might actually use this one. No, I like this and this together. So what I'm doing most of the time is I'm trying to find one. Some of these pads you get, and they're thick paper, which is great. So I kind of use it as a cover for the signature. And then I want to pick out a secondary one. Let's say this one. And this is a thinner paper. It's more like the thickness of copier paper. So I like to use two or three of these within my signature. And as you know, most of my signatures range from 6 to 8, sometimes 9 pages. You don't want to go much beyond that because then it starts to get too thick. And then, of course, once you start to embellish that signature and putting pockets and lace and buttons and, you know, envelopes and things, it'll start to get too wide as well, right? So less is more sometimes with these signatures. So I have this orange paper, and I think I had some pink paper around here. I also found this, so let me just bear with me for a second. Oh, there's some pink paper there. But there's also, where is it? It just went, here we are. I found this beautiful, I bought it a couple of years ago, but it's really colorful 3-ring binder paper. But what I really like about this particular piece is I spilled my coffee this morning, and ta-da! It's got some coffee stains on it, which I love. So, you know, happy little accidents, as Bob Ross would say, right? And that's the thing I love about journaling, that's really hard to say today, is that you can have these happy little accidents, which are great, right? So I'm going to take another orange piece of paper, and I have all kinds of paper here. So, you know, it's back from when I used to have kids in school and, you know, had a printer and all that kind of stuff. We don't print as much as we used to. But just folding, especially if it's a 8.5 by 11 page, give or take. Yeah, that's more vintagey. Oh, I was going to use one of these. So this has some old print on it, but what I'm going to do is fold it. And then once it goes in the signature, I'll make sure that I embellish these two sides, however they might land, right? So a lot of the times I like to put the printer, or put the big one in between. So I'm putting the pink in the middle. Maybe I'm making a big, actually I'm not going to put the pink in the middle. I'm going to put it on the outside. And then I'll put the blue in the middle. Blue in the middle. We've got one of our big pages, right? Pink and orange. I love the colors of pink and orange together. Just makes my heart sing. Then we'll put the lined pink paper. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And then with the cover, we got 7 pages. And it'll make a beautiful signature for a modern girl coffee date kind of journal. Now, sometimes some of these things overlap, and sometimes I'll put unicorns, which are generally in the magical section, but sometimes I'll put them in the modern girl or whatever kind of thing. So now you're wondering, what am I doing with this extra? This is going to be too big. So what I do is I fold it down to about where these all match, right? Now, what I love about junk journaling too is it doesn't all have to be super matchy-match. So then I take my beautiful ruler. This is worth it. It's a ripper, but it's also a ruler, so you can measure things, should you choose to do that. I rarely do that. I know some people are very precise and they want it just so. And if that's you, do it. You want to dot your I's and cross your T's? Have at her. I might miss a few I's, so it's all good. But what you can do is put your ripper down, sort of right near Let's see if I can get a little closer. Oops, I'm going. Ah, now we're completely out of shot. There we go. So as you can see, I'm putting the ruler down, and it's a ripper, and off it comes. Nice and easy. Better than scissors. It'll rip more evenly than scissors will do it. So keep that in mind, because a lot of people are like, why didn't you just use scissors? I'm like, because it doesn't rip as well. Now there's a little bit of an overhang on the side here too. Now you can leave that. The person will open the journal and go, oh, there's some pretty flowers somewhere in this book. So you can leave that. Then we've got the cover. So the cover is a heavier, almost cardstock sort of weight. You can choose to rip it. You can do it bottom, top. You can do a little of both. I am a lazy junk journaler, so I'm just going to do the top. And again, it's a little bit harder with the cardstock one, but you can just bend it a little bit like that, right? And just rip, and done. We're done. And it gives a nice sort of uneven edge. You know, that's what we like in junk journaling. Now you can decide to distress it. And what I mean by distress it, actually I'm going to use scissors for this because I don't like this little tail. Where are we? This one. So I'm just going to, no one's going to know. There you go. Keep my secret, please. So you can choose to distress it. I generally don't with the Modern Girls and Coffee Dates because it's not vintage yet, because it's supposed to be Modern Girl, right? But sometimes I will distress it with a colorful ink. So there's all kinds of distressing inks. Let me just come out a little bit here. There's all kinds of distressing inks to get. You can get pink, blue, green, purple, yellow, all the ones under the rainbow. I don't have those with me, but that's sort of a decision I make when I'm putting an entire journal together. And then what you do is you go to the center, you get your big, long stapler, see? Ooh. So I can slide in things, and you can adjust the slide. This is how you adjust it, up and down like this, okay? And it doesn't really matter how far you want to go in or not go in. If you're precise, you might use this way more than I do. So yeah, so this is great. I think this is something to stabilize it if you choose to stabilize it onto a desk. I don't. I like it to move because sometimes I'm here, sometimes I'm there. So, but this is definitely worth the investment because doing with a regular stapler, you can't do it without having to curl the book over, and sometimes that makes your paper go a little funky. So here we are. We're going to staple it all together. One. I generally do two. You can sew later if you want to, once you're putting these signatures into a book. And that's how you make a signature, fast and easy. And I love it. Does not take very long. And then, like I said, if you're putting a journal together, you can, these all happen to be art ones, but you know, 3-4 journals or signatures per journal, because once you fill these up and embellish them, they're going to be a lot thicker. And we'll get into putting signatures in, but this is how you batch make signatures. So if I wanted to do an artsy fartsy one, I have 2, 3 ready to go here. I can just go through my journals and go, oh yeah, yep, this is a nice artsy fartsy one. So there you go. I've got 3 all together, and then I just pick the cover, and we'll go through gutting a book as well. Because like I said, I'm going to make this easy. It's a beautiful craft to be able to do, whether it's gifted, whether it's just for you, whether you sell them, whatever it might be. This is a great way to use up paper too. And it's so calming and relaxing. All right. Thanks for being here. Bye.